Alright guys, it's time to talk about how to mod our Axis weapons. Now, I did this kind of video, I did a two-parter on the American weapons, and it came out really long. People complained that even the breaking it into two parts was still very lengthy. So I'm going to try to make this more condensed than the last time I did this, so let's see how this goes. Alright guys, so first we'll talk pistols here, and the C96 is the first pistol the Axis get. Now, I like the C96. You have a lot of options with it. You can either try to go really fast RPMs with it, or you can go a damage build with it. Now, the maximum damage ammo is going to be your Wolf Faust. That, combined with the internal of the heavy pistol bolt, it makes this gun a 3-hit kill weapon. And it makes it just, it feels like a Noisey Cricket, just like in Men in Black. If you want, you can tighten up your aim, of course, with a couple of sights here. It's not really required, but if you are trying to do any kind of decent mid-ranging with it, which it is possible. Now, over in your trigger, I really think for every gun, you really can't go wrong with a field-adjusted trigger. It's normally going to give you added RPMs for very, very little recoil gain. But if you want to go a bit faster with it, you can step up to the hair trigger or the match trigger. The match trigger, it makes it really wily though. You gotta watch out for that spread rate. Now, we already kind of looked at the internals here, the heavy pistol bolt of course, but you have other options. You can either speed up the RPMs more or slow it down for control, really up to your playstyle. Both the barrels here, they're basically just range add-ons, and the difference is very minimal, so I actually don't run barrels on my C96s. Alright, so the P08 Luger, or again as I have named the Noisey Cricket, I don't know why, I like that name for the German pistols. This gun is a bit faster than the C96. It doesn't exactly range as far, but this is a gun you really want to have when you're in a tight pinch. You can really rapid fire it, put some damage down. You have your same ammo choices as always. You have either a ranged ammo or you have two damage additions. I go with the one in the middle, the Wolf Engel. The Faust is a bit much of like an accuracy loss to me. I'm not too happy with it. But what I really like about the Luger is the RPMs on it. You can see mine's sitting at 600 right now. That's just with the addition of a match trigger and the lightened pistol spring. Now again, this one also has the option to add damage to it, and you can take it up even harder hitting, but you really don't need to, as you're not getting it above that threshold to make it a 2-hit kill, so there's not really much of a point in my eyes. This thing really shines with the good medium damage but the high RPMs. Now the barrel I actually do use on this gun, because this gun, like I said, it doesn't range as well as the C96, so I kind of like to emulate that, get a little bit more range out of it. You don't really lose that much stability, so it's not a problem. And again, I do use a sight on this gun, trying to tighten it up. I use this gun mainly on my sniper character, so I like tight, accurate firing with it. But again, it's like the best just to pull out of your pocket, unload on somebody with. It's really crazy. So now we'll talk rifles, I guess. I'll start with the bolt action. It's really the same as any other bolt build. Until you have all the parts to fully mod the gun up to a 1-hit kill rifle, I would really recommend running mainly sniper ammo if you want, and maybe just run some RPM internals on it just to turn it up a little bit faster so you can grind with it a little faster. But once you're there, now this, again, I use the KAR98 mainly on my recon, so I'm going for a long range damage build. That's why I use the SS ammo. If you're a short range infantry trying to build a 1-hit kill, you're going to be restricted to the heart ammo, which is still going to give you lots of damage, but you won't have nearly the sniping range as a regular recon does. And I'll tell you more about why in a minute. So your sightings, again, if you want to buy field adjusted sights or match sights as an infantry to tighten it up, that's really up to you. It's not required. Once you unlock your scopes, the 4.2 is a very nice scope. It has very little sway. I do myself prefer the 8x scope. I figure if I'm going to go recon, I'm going to go full recon. And now the actual triggering on the rifle, they're all pretty much the same. They add a certain amount of RPM and they add a certain amount of instability there. But since they vary so little, I use the maximum RPM trigger, the fine hair trigger. That helps you get through your shot quicker and reload your gun faster to get your next shot out. Now your internals, again, pretty standard. If you're going for the one-hit build on either infantry or recon, you have no choice. You're going to be using the heavy bolt. It will knock off some RPM, some accuracy, but it gives you the damage you need to get there. Your other internals are just, again, options to modify your rate of fire. Like I said, before you have the full one-hit build, you might want to go with just a light and spring, just something to fire it a little bit faster. That in conjunction with the SS ammo will at least ensure you're getting a 2-hit kill every time, with some added range to that. Okay, so barrels are where it gets interesting here. This is why recon do one-hit kill rifles better than infantry. Because as an infantry, you're restricted to either the Scout 2 or the stainless steel barrel. Now once you're recon, you unlock the octagon and the chrome molly. Now these are really high damage barrels, so these let you use the more accurate ammunition while still maintaining your one-hit capabilities. Now I myself prefer the chrome molly 4150. It is the strongest of all the barrels. It is going to give you the most damage and range. There's nothing really wrong with the octagon. You're still going to be technically above, you know, or right at one-hit kill range, but again, it kind of helps to have the numbers above 100, so if you equip the heart ammo, that can really help. But you're going to lose your range there again, so beware. Alright, so now we'll talk about the G43. This is actually the starter rifle for when you spawn as Germany for your first time, or any kind of fresh infantry. They will have a G43 equipped standard. Now I really didn't like the gun before until I scoped it, but we'll get into that. But you have your same options of ammunition here. You have a really high damage banger, which I don't really use because of the range drop off. You know, after it looks like about 50 meters, you're not maintaining that kind of damage. So again, I use the sniper ammo with it. It puts you at a guaranteed 2-hit kill, aside from heavy set of course, and gives you some more range to play with. So now sighting, I mean, as an infantry, you can maybe use the field adjusted sights if you'd like to, you know, just to tighten it up a bit more. But I really like the scope on the G43. It responds very well to it. It is a T-post, so beware. Some people are turned off by the T-post. I personally don't mind it. I still use the horizontal bar in conjunction with the vertical bar, and I don't have much trouble with it at all. If anything, I'm pinging heads left and right. Now there's only one trigger available, that's your field trigger. You'll see I haven't bought it. I actually didn't bother because I'm not trying to spray this gun that awful fast. I feel that the actual stock 225 RPM is really good for an auto sniping kind of feel. Your internals are pretty basic here. You have the option either add more rate of fire or take away rate of fire, really up to you. You know, you can tighten it up a bit more, but you're going to be slowing it down. Just be wary. It's really up to you. It's kind of a play style there. I prefer to not use an internal at all. And there's only one barrel option here. That's just to add a bit more range. If you watch the chart here, the range gain it's rather minimal, and for the range I actually try to effectively snipe with this gun. It's usually never above 200 meters, so I just avoid the barrel, save a little bit of credit cost. And if you were wondering, the skin is the Got Mint Unz, and I think it costs about 60,000 credits. It's actually not that expensive at all, and it looks cool as hell. So we'll talk submachine guns now, and as a German, the first one you unlock is the MP34. The biggest thing to be wary of the MP34 is its mag size. It only carries 20 bullets at a time, so you're going to bring it empty pretty quick. So again, you have your standard ammos, you have 2 damage bumping ammunitions, and you have like a range one that'll level out at the cost of some damage. I use, again, the intermediate damage ammo, the one that's right in between here, the Wolf Angle. It just gives it a little extra kick to help it get through, maybe if they have heavy set on. You really don't need this. The stock ammunition is actually fine. Considering the incredibly close range you're going to be using this gun, I really can't recommend throwing sights on here to tighten it up. I mean, you really can if you want. It's your repair bill. And when you come to the triggers, again, the good old field trigger job never does you wrong. You can go with the marksman trigger if you want, but it's going to make a lot more, a bit of a chaotic spray pattern, we'll call it that. So I use the good old field trigger here. And now for the internals, I actually threw on a light and bolt alongside this. I use fast reload badge when I use this gun, so I can spray out all 20 of those rounds pretty quick, and it's actually very lethal. Pop a new mag in, ready to go. Now, if you actually do want to run max RPMs like I'm running on it, ideally you're going to want the light and spring, just because you won't be punished on range. The gun already taps out the damage at just over 25 meters. You're going to get some bullet drop off, and you're going to see a lot of spread in the bullets. So just be wary of that. Me, I just crank it up the cheap way with the old light and bolt, and I just use the gun real close quarters, battle indoors with it. Again, considering the range this gun does not have, I don't bother with the barrel. I just save the money. There's no point in trying to add range to it. And now the second submachine gun you'll get here, the good old Thompson's daddy, as I call it. It's the MP40. And I call it the Thompson's daddy just because for the longest time, everybody was complaining how overpowered the Thompson was. And every time I got on my MP40, I was like, y'all are crazy. But now times have changed. People don't like the MP40 no more. They call it the OP40. But let's get into it. Again, your same 3 damage choices on ammunition. You can either sacrifice some for more range, or you can go with an intermediate damage, or you can go with the full-on FOST ammo. I am using the FOST ammo here, really just trying to chew through some heavy set badges when I take it into war. Considering how this gun again is going to be a close sieging weapon, I don't bother with the sights on there, but you can see they actually do help the spread rate quite a bit. But it's really up to you. I would save the repair bill personally. Now for your triggers, again, I use the good old field trigger job here. You just can't go wrong. It doesn't add that much recoil at all. The marksman trigger is really going to spread your circle. You'll get higher RPMs with it, mind you, but it makes it, you know, again, really chaotic spread rate, so be careful. I like to stay right in the middle. You can add a bit of RPM to it without that much accuracy loss, so it's not a problem. Now again, I'm using the good old cheap light and bolt just to push more RPMs on this gun. Ideally, again, you would want the light and spring just so you're not losing a bit of, you know, range and precision. But I use this so close quarters at such high RPM, I go the cheap route and I just start spraying at stuff. And of course, you have the option to slow it down with a heavy spring if you want a more precise build. I really don't recommend doing that. The gun likes either stock or added RPMs. And again, a stainless steel barrel, all it does is add a bit of range to the gun. It's not really enough to justify the repair cost or even really show a difference in battle, so I would just pass on that one. And I am using the carbon black skin here, just because the black skins are awesome. Alright, so before we go on to LMGs, I guess we should talk about the beloved STG-44. So you only have one ammunition choice other than stock, and that's just to add a bit of damage and range for the cost of a little bit of precision and, you know, a little bit of spread rate loss, but it's not that bad. I actually like to use it, so it's there. Now right now I'm actually using the field adjusted sight just to tighten up the circle a little bit here. I like a bit of control on my STG. You can scope it if you like. I don't really like the STG myself with a scope. Some people swear by it and love it. I like the good old iron sights, so I actually tighten them up with a field adjusted sight upgrade. Under triggers, you only have one option, but it's a good option, the good old field trigger job. It adds just the tiniest little bit of recoil, but you'll gain another 53 RPM out of it, so that's good. Now under internals, you have the option to crank the gun up to 600 RPMs if you so desire. I personally do not like the feel of the STG at 600 RPMs, it gets a little wily, so I like it right in the middle. I'm kind of a middle guy, I don't know, but I like it right here at 553. And again, you have one barrel option. I actually don't bother to use it. The STG feels like it ranges very well on its own. You can use the barrel if you're scoping, I suppose, you know, trying to tighten it up or go a little further. But for basic infantry use, I find myself at short to medium range most of the time with it, so the barrel isn't really necessary. And yes, that is the carbon black skin on the STG. Alright, so if we're talking LMGs, the first one you get is the MG34. Now me personally, I like it just with the stock ammunition because it already has a bit of a recoil jump to it, and adding anything to that, it really makes it a really bumpy ride. So I prefer the stock ammunition, but you have three choices to step up the damage, or you can step up the damage and the range if you so desire. Now you have field adjusted sights under sighting, but the impact is so minimal. Watch the circle here. I don't bother, not worth the repair bill. Okay, under triggers you only have one option, that's your field trigger job, but again it won't lead you wrong. You gain just the slightest bit of recoil, but you gain actually a decent amount. I'm at 654, take it off, and we're at 553. So we're gaining 101 RPM just from the trigger alone. Well worth it in my book. So under internals here you have three options. You have damage and range, less RPM, more RPM. So you can crank it up to 720 RPM if you so desire. It actually is not a bad ride firing this gun at 720 RPMs. It's actually still very, very controllable as long as you're using stock ammunition. But if you so desire, you could add the heavy bolt to gain a little bit of damage and range, and use that in conjunction with a chrome lined barrel to again gain a little bit of damage and range. Now people would ask why. Well, these in conjunction with an ammo will bring the gun up to a 3-hit kill status, but it's gonna be a bumpy ride, lots of recoil. So it's really up to you how you mod this. If you want to maybe just go for straight precision, you could go with a stainless steel barrel. I mean, the options are there to go higher damage or RPM, it's really on you. Once you own the gun and feel it out, you can really just tell what I'm talking about. It's hard to describe. They're two totally different builds when you go from damage to like an RPM or control build. Alright, now for the big boy, the big dreaded MG42. Now, again, any kind of custom ammo you add to here, it's going to give you a lot of recoil. And to me, that really takes away from the MG42's strength, and that's being as with stock ammunition, it's very, very controllable, even at maximum RPMs. Now we only have one sighting here. I actually do use it. I try to tighten this gun up as much as I can when I'm using it. I like that deadly, laser accurate feeling that you'll get. Now under triggers, again, we only have the field trigger job, but you just can't go wrong with it. Even if you're not into RPMs, just use it. It just makes the gun better. Now I caught some flack about this because I made an MG42 video a while ago. They said, if you're using stock ammo, how come you're using the heavy bolt with the chrome lined barrel just to add that little wee bit of damage? And to me, it just helps me chew through heavy set badges a little bit faster. You'll find that everybody in war mode wears a heavy set badge. I mean everybody. I see pilots wearing heavy set badges. It's insanity. So when I'm putting this much lead down range with that much accuracy, and I can make each bullet bite just a little bit harder, maybe it's just a head game to me, it just makes me feel better. But again, you have the same options as before. You have damage, less rate of fire, more rate of fire. See, if I take off my heavy bolt, with just the addition of a field trigger, I'm at 1028 RPMs. Now adding the light and spring to that will give you the 1200 RPM monster that everybody fears. I personally don't like that build. People will say, well, how could you? You don't have the mod unlocked yet. Well, I did have it unlocked, it just wasn't equipped. A few updates ago, you know, they redid the way ribbons are, so I actually have to regrind the ribbon before I can re-equip the light and spring, but I do own it. I just didn't like the feel of the gun with that much RPM. It wasn't a problem of control, it was a problem of running it empty too fast and getting myself killed. So again, I'm right in the middle with it. I like adding a field trigger, but I also like adding some damage to this monster. But if you don't feel like damage, you can either go for a precision build, just put the stainless steel barrel in there to tighten it up a little bit. It'll give you a similar result to the field adjusted sights. But again, it's just a personal preference. How do you want to use the gun? High damage, high RPM, it's just really up to you. You can feel it when you get it. And finally, the FG42. This is the German para-only weapon. It's technically an LMG. So the way I like to go about modding this is I actually like to use the SS ammo. This will give you damage and range, and I use that in conjunction with some other parts. Like when you go to your internal here, the heavy bolt. I mean, you have the option to either add or take away rate of fire, that's up to you. But I actually like to add the heavy bolt and also the chrome line barrel. This puts the gun very comfortably at a 3-hit kill weapon. And adding the ammo does add a decent chunk of recoil, so you have to be careful. The gun will pull up and to the left, as you can see by the yellow circle here. It's also not a bad idea to bring a field trigger. It adds just the slightest bit more recoil, but the extra RPM will help you, especially when you're indoors. And of course, if you want to tighten it up with a field adjusted sight, you can do that, or if you'd rather use a T-post on it. The gun actually does respond pretty well to the T-post, but ultimately it's really up to you. The gun natively is anywhere from a 3 to 4 hit kill, but I like adding a lot more damage to it because it really doesn't affect the recoil that hard. You just have to pull your mouse to really compensate, but it chews through heavy set badges really well. So I really hope this helped you guys out, at least understanding some of the basics and how the Axis guns work. I mean, they're similar to all the other guns, just like the modding is. And of course, all this is really subjective. This is a lot of my opinion, how I feel the guns like to work. I don't like to build my guns around badge dependencies, like having to use things like tight grip or steady aim pro or deadeye. I don't mind using fast reload, but I do suffer from that Call of Duty syndrome, that damn sleight of hand reloading every 2 seconds, so it really helps me out with that. But I really hope you guys enjoyed. Drop me a like if you did. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not, and I'll see you in the next one.